Good morning. I got time this morning to make a little video before I start my day. And the subject of this video is what's been called in the chess world as the Immortal Game. The game was played 163 years ago, and it's been widely published in books and articles on chess, since that time, and now on the internet. So this isn't anything new. I just wanted to share the game as it would be played on a real chess set, rather than just an annotated diagram in a book or on a computer screen. I'm going to play through the moves of what is considered by many to be one of the greatest chess games ever played. At the very least, the game is acclaimed as an excellent demonstration of the style of chess play that was in vogue during the late 19th century. That style was characterized by seemingly reckless rapid development and attack, people just throwing things at each other willy-nilly, which back then was considered the most effective way to win. There were many gambits and counter gambits offered, and it was thought to be ungentlemanly not to accept them. Um, this game that I'm going to play through and ones like it with their explosive attacks and counterattacks, they're often very interesting to play through. Um, but they would never be played today due to all the advances in defensive theory. That's not to say that there aren't some truly amazing ideas unfolding on the chessboard today. There are. The game was nicknamed the Immortal Game in 1855, and the name stuck. It was played on June 21st during the 1851 London tournament. A lot of great players there for that. During a break in that tournament, two of the greatest players of the day adjourned to a lounge somewhere in the vicinity, and one would think maybe just to relax, smoke a cigar, get ready for the next game, but no, more chess. The two players were Adolf Anderssen and Lionel Kieseritsky. There weren't any world championships back then to determine who was the greatest, but Anderssen, he was widely accepted as the best player of the time. Kieseritsky, he lived most of his life in Paris, and he made a living just playing chess at the Café de la Régence, which was a big chess club there. And in the day, anybody who was anybody in the chess world, when they went to Paris, they played there. And Lowenthal, Steinitz, Anderson, Morphy, all just to name a few. And Kieseritsky, like I said, he made a living just teaching chess, and he'd often play odds games against people. He would offer to take his queen off the board and then proceed to beat your socks off. So he was a great player. He was no slouch either. So when these two famous players sat down across from one another at the board, a large crowd naturally gathered around to watch these guys go at it. And the contest begins with Anderssen playing the white pieces. And so it begins. Anderssen moves e4, pushing his king pawn out 2 squares. King pawn opening is just as popular today as it was then. It's conducive to more of attacking style play rather than positional. Kieseritsky responds in kind for the same reason, out to e5. Anderssen follows up with f4. King's Gambit is what this is called, and it's still played today, but it's considered a little bit risky for white because it kind of weakens the white's king side over here. But the idea behind it is to offer a flank pawn for black's strong king pawn, and which Kieseritsky does. He accepts the gambit. King Gambit accepted. Anderssen follows up by moving out bishop to c4, seizing this long attacking diagonal here, looking down at the f7 square. And in king pawn openings, this is often this is the weakest square in black's camp. The knight's only a few hops away. The queen can slide out here, and after castling, white has a rook looking down, so that square is often a focal point for attack in king pawn openings. But undaunted, Kieseritsky just comes sailing out here with his queen to h4, check. violating one of the opening principles of not moving your queen, getting it into play too early, and you'll see why in a minute. That's not a good idea. But here it looks like it does have an idea, forcing Anderson to move his king, which he does. He slides over to f1, and now he can no longer castle on the king side, and his rook's kind of bottled up here. And then Kizaritsky keeps going. He follows up with b5, which is called the Brian counter gambit. That's a gambit of his own, sometimes called the Kizaritsky gambit. And it's, I guess Kizaritsky played it a lot and studied it deeply, but the only reason I can see for it is maybe to pull White's bishop off of this attacking diagonal and create a square for his own queen bishop. So Anderson says, sure, I'll take your pawn. I'll get my pawn back. And he does so. And then Kizaritsky comes out with a developing move, knight to f6. And Anderson follows in turn with knight to f3. And in this case, he's attacking the black queen, which has to slide back to h6. She's moved, twice now, losing the tempo. So Anderson just keeps going here. He's going to mind his own business, and he moves out here to d3, kind of shoring up his center and protecting his strong king pawn here, just minding his own business. But Kizaritsky says no. He says, I'm not afraid of the greatest player in the world. He says, I'm going to keep attacking. So he comes over here, knight to h5. And it looks kind of silly because now he's moved his knight twice, and he's out here on the rim. But the threat is knight to g3 check, and Anderson cannot recapture with the pawn because of queen to rook. Queen takes rook. So that's the threat there. Anderson parries that easily with knight to h4. Now this no longer works because White's knight is in the way. And Kizaritsky keeps it going. He keeps the pressure on with queen to g5. Now he's attacking Anderson's knight and his bishop over here on the queen side. And and what does Anderson do? He parries both of those threats with knight to f5. That takes care of both of those threats. So now Kizaritsky's looking, and I guess he's feeling the pressure here. He's got his queen pawn pinned against his king over here by the bishop, and he kind of like to open things up here in the center a little bit. So he pushes out with c6, and that unpins his queen pawn, and also attacks Anderson's bishop. Well, Anderson responds with his own attack. He comes out with g4. And it may, it's, some people consider that a weak move. You got a number of things that can go on here. You got a possible en passant capture there, and what would happen if the exchange just went down like that? Who knows? You can play through that yourself and go along that way. But the move that was actually made was Kizaritsky retreats back to f6. So what does Anderson do about that? He now makes a very subtle move. He ignores his hanging bishop over here, and he just slides his rook over to g1, daring Kizaritsky to take the bishop. The bishop is poisoned. The bishop is poisoned. But how do you not accept a full piece here? And Kizaritsky goes ahead and grabs the bishop. And some people say that was his undoing. Now he's ahead in material, but you can kind of see where this is going. White's kind of going to get an attack going down here towards the king side, and he does so by moving h4. Now that pushes the queen back to g6, and she's kind of running out of real estate here. What's going on? So Anderson presses the attack with h5. Now the queen only has one square. I mean, she comes back up to g5, and now Kizaritsky's queen is completely hemmed in here on the king side. She's trapped over here on the king side, and what to do. And now Anderson's going to start mounting his attack, and he comes out here with queen to f3. And there's two murderous threats here in this. The first one being bishop takes pawn, and that wins the queen. She's got nowhere to go. The other threat is pawn to e5, attacking Kizaritsky's knight and also his rook by the queen over here. So the only way that he can parry both of those threats is to make a very inglorious retreat back to home base. So he's all the way back home. Kizaritsky got most of his pieces back in the original starting position, except for his queen. And Anderson's starting to get a really strong attack going here. He's starting to roll, you know. So Anderson follows through with his plan, and it's bishop takes pawn, attacking the queen. And now that previous move by Kizaritsky allows an escape square for the queen, so she comes back to f6 there, and she's looking pretty good there. So what does Anderson do next? He just comes out with a nice developing move, but the knight comes out to c3, but it's galloping over here towards the action, and so Kizaritsky responds with a developing move of his own. He's got to get some pieces into play here pretty soon. So he comes out bishop to c5 with an attack on Anderson's rook over here on g1. So how does Anderson respond? With an attack of his own. He comes up here knight to d5, attacking Kizaritsky's queen. Well, now, whoa, things are getting ugly here for black. I mean, there's these knights are getting too close for comfort. Black needs to keep an eye on this pawn over here. There's an attack going on the g pawn over here, check. So Kizaritsky keeps his eye on that square by coming up here and attacking Anderson's pawn on b2, and so he's still got an eye down here. But now Anderson has got both of his rooks hanging. He's got this rook under attack by the bishop. He's got this rook under attack by the queen. But he's undaunted. This guy's the Terminator. I mean, he's not going to slow down. He says, I'm coming after you, Kizaritsky. I'm coming for you. And so what does he do? He comes out here, bishop to d6. Whoa, wow. Okay, now definitely a mating threat. The bishop's sitting on is controlling the c7 square and the e7 square, and there's definitely a mate in the works here going on. So and really, Kizaritsky cannot respond by taking the bishop. If you play through this, which I have, you will see that it doesn't really help him at all. So he desperately comes up here and snatches up Anderson's rook here on the G1 file, and a lot of people say that he probably should have taken this rook first, but undaunted, Anderson just makes the fatal, he makes the fatal sealing the deal move, and he just comes up here and goes e5. Okay, so the queen can no longer get back to aid in the defense back here. So she just goes ahead and takes his other rook. Okay, queen to a1, check. Anderson merely slides his king out to e2, and now Kizaritsky's got two powerful pieces back here, but his attack has run out of steam. He really has nothing he can do down here. So there's definitely a mating threat in the works here now, and there's only one thing that Kizaritsky, well, there's two things that he can do, but at this point Kizaritsky states that he resigned, but people actually say that before he did that, he made this move, knight to a6. Now the mating squares, he's got a knight covering this mating square and a knight covering this mating square. So you know, he can't. You know, he can't. He has to keep those going. So at this point, Anderson announces the mating sequence, and it goes like this: knight to G, knight takes at G7, check. Uh, Black can only move to D8, and now Anderson forces Kizritsky to take his queen. Queen to F6 check. The only move he has is to take the queen with his knight, and that pulls the knight off of the mating square. So he does that. He would have done that. Knight takes queen, and the final fatal blow, the coup de mort, is bishop to E7 checkmate. So there it is, a beautiful gem of a game. And the wild thing about this is that when you look at this, Kizuriski's only down 3 pawns. He has every one of his major pieces and minor pieces on the board. All of his pieces are on the board, and at the same time, Anderson's given up a bishop. He's given up a rook, and then he gives up another rook, and then he forces Kizuriski to take his queen. So this is quite a gem of a game, and I love playing through it. It's very instructive. It kind of gives you a glimpse into the mind of these guys. But like I said, I enjoy playing through it, and I hope you enjoyed the game. And thanks for watching.